fashion in Uganda has evolved through the colonial era to the flourishing standards of the 21st century. Over the weekend, Uganda celebrated her 60th independence anniversary, and tonight on the show, we want to discuss how fashion as an industry has come of age.
And of course, we got to see various celebrities and influencers put out their photo shoots inspired by the Independence Day. Today, we're going to be talking about the ones that stood out for us, the ones that were amazing, and the ones that, of course, that didn't cut the mark for us.
Welcome to NTV Style Project, and of course we celebrated Uganda's 60th independence anniversary over the weekend. That was on last Sunday. And so we want to talk about how we've evolved, how fashion has come of age. That's the discussion for tonight, and of course to do that with me is the beautiful Nicole Estella.
What do you do?
77. And you look super amazing. For some reason you love colors nowadays.
Yeah.
You are so monochrome. I think for the previous 5 shows you've
Yes.
always been like that.
Yes.
I don't know what's happening, but I mean
No
for it.
reason, actually. Yeah.
All right, we celebrated Uganda's independence on Sunday. That is last Sunday. And of course at NTV Style Project, we want to have a fashion discussion of where we come from,
Yes.
where we are, and where we're heading.
Of course, there is very little to talk about pre-colonial times, other than talking about our traditional, what we were wearing as indignant people before we got all this Western influence and Western interference in our fashion. We saw fabrics that were very organic.
What do you mean by fabric?
I would call Lubugo fabric. I would call cow skin fabric. In a way, it's anything that you put on your skin that is wearable can be called fabric. So we had the Lubugo that was made from the mutuba tree, and there were also that was made by the Buganda. I think it was mostly from Buganda, the Lubugo.
Yeah, it was because in the pre-colonial era, Buganda was an organized society.
Yeah.
And of course, moving fast forward, we came to the colonial era.
Yeah.
And lots of things kept changing.
Yeah, actually, like before the colonial era, there's also a bit of trade.
Slave trade as well on the coast.
It was more like barter trade in exchange for certain things. So that's when we saw the kanzus coming.
That was brought by the Arabs.
That was bought by the Arabs. That's when we got a bit of fabric, and now, like, you know, clothes,
finer
fabric. Then we start to see shirts, skirts, dresses, and things like that.
And even when we talk about the kanzu, it only started from royalty as well. For some reason, every fashion item that came to the market, that came to East Africa and to Uganda, it only started from the kingdoms.
Yeah.
The kanzu was a royal gift from
Yeah.
the Arabs to the big traders in Uganda and East Africa at large.
Yes.
That is the time we saw that lady Gomez.
Yes.
Is it Gomez?
Gomez. She was called Gomez. She was actually the headmistress of Gaza High School, and people don't know that the Gomesi was named after her. And it's because she made a few changes to what we used to wear.
We had before colonialism.
Yeah, actually what the Baganda used to wear is that it was like as if a half gomesi, you would call it, but then it was called the busuti. So they would wear it with the lubugo, the back cloth. It was just half here, and then do the, of course, the chitambala with the lubugo and all. So what she did is now that she incorporated fabric now, instead of the back cloth, she incorporated fabric and also added the arms.
Now we move to the colonial era.
Yes.
We see British, we see Germans.
We see them wearing ties, we see them wearing suits, we see them wearing trousers, and it's a whole new experience for the Wananchi.
Absolutely. And of course, we had personalities, Ugandans, that used to make it even in the colonial era. We have quite a number of names, and that need to be celebrated.
Yes.
We have the era, the 1950s.
Yeah.
When we are talking fashion, I want to
the
call
slay
it,
queens.
Yes, I need to call it the era of Princess Bagaya.
Bagaya.
1950s.
You know, when you talked about that time, I was thinking about one person, Princess Bagaya. That lady traveled That lady had a blast. That lady featured
she's
in
done
magazines.
It all. She's done it all.
She featured in international magazines. She walked international runways. Did she do runways?
She did runways, but of course her first
mostly
fashion show,
fashion
was in the
magazines.
1950s. She traveled to the UK on the invitation of Princess Margaret to do a charity fashion show, and that is when I think scouts saw her. In just the following year, she had a 4-page spread in Vogue magazine.
Imagine.
You can imagine.
In the 50s.
And then
she's a legend.
A legend. She was also a cover girl for Harper's Bazaar. The first, one of the first black models to actually be a cover girl. And I think
one thing people need to realize, that the reason that's why we're really hyping this lady is because in those days it was very hard,
almost impossible
for black models or black beings, human beings, for black people to ever make it big in fashion, because the beauty standards then were mostly about white, pale skin, red lips, pink lips, very slender bodies, not African features. So imagine a girl with African features, the nose, the body, a bit of hips here and there, featuring as a cover girl on these international brands. I think that is such a big thing. She was such a beauty. She was also very hardworking. And also one thing that I really loved about Princess Bagaya is that she was actually a feminist, I should say.
She's the mother of Uganda's modeling.
Yes.
She opened doors for the modeling industry in Uganda. And in 1984, she was actually a star in the movie Queen of Sheba.
Yeah.
That is 1984. It was our beautiful Princess Bagaya as the star
from Toro Kingdom
in that movie as well. And of course we have names that came after her. We have
in
the Kabakurus.
Yeah, we have Cecilia Ogwal.
Cecilia Ogwal. Cecilia Ogwal. She was Miss Uganda 1964. She was Miss Uganda 1964. Now we're coming
Can you imagine?
Exactly, we're coming to the era of just after independence.
Just after independence.
Cecilia Ogwal.
Cecilia Ogwal was the first Miss Uganda. I think that was the very first pageant. I look back at those pictures and I'm like, they don't exactly look like models. Like models then didn't exactly look like models now. Standards have changed.
What the fashion industry calls for, even just in the 90s, it is totally different from the 2000s.
But I think let's say, because right now everything is more inclusive, so would say yes, but maybe in the early 2000s the models were not exactly like that.
I want us to move on to the early 2000s now. We saw the Nakuyas Rahma, we saw the Brenda Nambis, we saw the Sharon Oz. I want us to first talk about that era now, Miss Uganda, and why it is not as big as it is today. I don't know why. Why that era was actually bigger than it is today.
I think about the era of obsessions,
the dance group.
Yes, how they used to dress up, and I think that was the era when there was I think debates between Kenya and Uganda fashion in music videos, and Kenyans used to say that Ugandans show a lot of skin in music videos while they were a bit more reserved. I feel like Ugandans were more ahead, so they would show a bit of skin, because you remember those Obsessions videos, they would be dressed, they were really showing skin.
And of course, it brings us to the era of Sylvia Wari and Santa of Arapapa Models.
Yes.
Before Santa went mainstream to be a fashion designer, she actually had a modeling agency called Arapapa, and it was sung about by
Arapapa Models was such a big thing.
Yeah, it was sung about by very many artists. The GNL Zamba in the later era sang about. Whenever he used to say slim girl, he was like, "Oh, your model Arapapa." He had those lines in his songs as well. So Sylvia Wari
was one of the biggest, arguably one of the biggest, if not the biggest influencers of fashion
in our era now.
Yes, No, I think let's say because not really, not now.
Millennials maybe.
Yeah, millennial era. So that is the 2000s, the early 2000s. We saw Sylvia Worry with her magazine. African Woman, and every fashion lover had to own that magazine.
And of course, she had her famous runway show. It was called Forever Love, and it still has great memories when it comes to that. She used to fly in international models as well. She used to fly in production teams as well. So it was her at that time. And it gave birth to the Santas of this world, of Ara Papa as well, a fashion designer that needs to be celebrated.
Yeah.
When I talk about Ara Papa in the fashion industry, what comes to my mind is her show was the first fashion show that our president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, His Excellency, actually attended.
Yep.
Still talking about our era, we have the amazing Amito Stacy Lagom.
Girl!
The supermodel.
Girl, you're killing it.
The first winner of Africa's Next Top Model
Yes.
by Oluchi.
Yes.
And we see very many models' dreams having been impacted by just that one person.
You know, it's so funny that most models, especially the ones with the darker complexion, who are actually really getting the gigs lately. So if you're lighter in complexion, you're not really getting the international deals.
Wahala for you.
Wahala for you. You better darken. Stand in the sun till you darken. I'm kidding. Love yourself the way you are. But it's quite interesting that most models, especially like of darker complexion, got to aspire for international brands to see them or for them to walk international shows because of Amito. She was like that person that inspired every model.
And of course, we have now the Patricias, Akelo Patricia.
Right now, I think there are quite a number of girls.
The Adit Priscilla.
Yeah, we have
the Veronica Ayak.
Yeah.
And of course, when we mention those names, we can't forget to mention the agent, their mother agent, Joram Muzira Job. She's good vibes.
He's actually one of the biggest players in the modeling industry, if not arguably the biggest player in the modeling industry. He is the biggest player in the modeling industry in Uganda, and I think Africa at large.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And from my end, I think the future is very bright. There's a breeding creativity that is happening right now. We have very many makeup artists, we have fashion photographers, we have designers, we have stylists, and they are really doing a very good thing. Yeah. So I think in the next 10 years, Uganda will be one of the fashion capitals in Africa. I believe so. Yes. Let's go in for
reservations. We're going to go in for a short break, and when we return, we're going to see how Ugandan creatives, celebrities, whatever you want to call them, how they celebrated their independence. Welcome back from that short break. Of course, the Style Project is proudly sponsored by Geisha Naturals, specially made for African skin. You're African, you need Geisha Naturals. The Moringa oil soap is amazing. The black soap, which is my favorite, is amazing. Of course, before we went in for the short break, we were talking about, we told you we're going to come back talking about what Ugandan creatives, celebrities did to celebrate independence, fashion-wise. I feel like this year, people were not that enthusiastic about doing photo shoots for independence.
We are broke.
People are doing birthday photo shoots, people are doing photo shoots for other things. But we've seen very little content around
I believe
independence.
I believe so. The previous independence celebrations were actually the thing. We didn't see it this time around. I don't know why. Very few creatives actually came up with different concepts, different photo shoots. But of course, we had some notable photos that we saw on the TL that are worth being talked about.
So what stood out for you? For me, I think what stood out for me, I saw a few of Kaijuka's. Kaijuka is always busy. Yes, that's Kai's Divo collection, for those that don't know. Yeah, he's always busy. He's always being booked. I think I saw 2 of his works. I saw him work with Fezabu for Independence. I loved Fezabu's work.
Why?
I feel like it was so, you know, there is little art that you can do with, say, hair. There is more art that you can do with face paint, with painting, with makeup and all of that. But someone that comes out and makes hair artistic, for me, I feel like I was wowed with the work. I saw a bit of of course, the Ugandan flag, the black, yellow, red, to celebrate our independence and how far we've come. It's okay. The photo gave me ancient Egyptian fields.
You see now the problem that I'm getting with this picture. It is actually supposed to show you a Ugandan feel. You're supposed to feel home and not any other different. But you see, for a day like Independence, we're actually supposed to see a photo and tell a story. It is very, very important for us to at just a single glance and tell the story of Uganda. It is very, very important. I
do agree with you, but overall the photo looked amazing.
It's a beautiful picture.
The model was well dressed by Kaijuka Abbas. Then I saw the girl with the braids, red braids, black and red braids. I feel like that was so bold. It was so beautiful and it was so creative. For those that don't know, Fezabu is a hair salon. So seeing a hair salon come out with all this creative work for independence, to celebrate independence, for me that is a plus, and people need to be given their flowers.
Out of 10.
Out of 10 for me, the picture of the hair,
yes,
both of them, I would give them 9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I love the work. I mean, if not, I would say 10, but I mean.
I need to shut up when it comes to how much I was going to give out of 10.
Please tell us.
We need to move on to the next person. Kaijuka Abbas also dressed Ugandan influencer, Martha K.
Yeah.
And it was a collaboration.
Is she an actor?
Kaijuka.
Is she
She's an influencer, TV personality, radio personality.
Socialite.
Socialite is a big word. I don't know how you can use it, but so it was a collaboration between Nail Villa for the nails and Kaijuka Abbas.
We saw the Ugandan flag as if like the whole Ugandan flag and the crested crane on her nails. I think Nail Villa is really. I was actually just looking at the nails and thinking, were these stickers? Was this art? If it was art, it must have taken a whole lot of time. But if it was stickers, it was still really creative.
Absolutely, and I love this picture. I think because it's a full picture, it shows the African body. Yeah, it is Kaijuka Abbas, it is Martha K. So she portrayed.
I think it's more the body on that picture than the whole outfit. The outfit wasn't really outstanding.
I know,
it was just the colors, black, yellow, red.
It takes us back to the topic of knowing what to wear for your kind of body. So
I mean, if you have a good body, you can just wear anything and you still
good is relative. One would think slim is good, but she wore something that actually suited her body.
Yeah.
So what other piece really stood out for you?
There was this little girl. Okay, no, first before we go to the girl, let's talk about Rachel Ray's outfit.
Wow.
We saw her tie the Ugandan flag. She did a small little skirt with the Ugandan flag. We saw her wearing beads, waist beads. I think waist beads are really sexy. We saw her
and the big necklace as well.
Yeah, the big necklace. We saw. I think it was really
carrying
African.
A cheap bow. I really love this piece.
Yeah, it was really African.
I love this piece, and it was done by Tina Kylie, and we give credit to Tina Kylie. She's been consistent over the years when it comes to theme shoots, most so independence.
Yeah.
And she's always choosing personalities. The previous time she had the Judith Hart, she had Nina Rose, and this year around for the 60th anniversary, she had Rachel Ray.
I just loved how she looked.
It's just beautiful.
I think she's just a beautiful woman. Her body, the beads, the flag. I don't know if that is respectful for the flag or not.
Why not? It's just colors. It's celebrating.
If it's not a problem to wear a flag or whatever, then I think for me it's a 10.
For the first time, I'm really agreeing with you.
Yeah.
I think we could give a 10 for this beautiful piece.
It was well put together.
Absolutely.
Well put together.
And then of course we have the little girl, Frenisha.
Yes.
Another very consistent fellow. This time around we saw very little color. In terms of how huge the photo shoot is. She was wearing a white dress, but it had detailing of the Ugandan flag. And she played around with her hair as well, the big balls all over in our Ugandan colors as well.
I feel like they took a bit of time putting that whole look together, time and effort, and I think mostly with the hair. I'd give it a 6.
You really wanted to give it a 4?
Yeah. But because she's a little girl, you don't want to crush people, really.
All right,
She looks pretty though. She looks pretty.
she's a beautiful lady,
She's a
beautiful girl,
yeah.
rising star in the modeling
Rising
industry as
star.
well. Absolutely. So we have these other two pictures. I want us to compare and contrast.
Yeah.
One is former Miss Tourism Chigezi. Another is this other beautiful picture that we saw. They played around. One had the Ugandan flag on the
with
cheek,
face paint.
and one had the map. What you say about that?
The face paint girl, I feel like Chibulam.
In terms of what? I think it's a beautiful picture.
It's a beautiful picture. She's a beautiful girl. But I feel like with art, with these independence shoots, people are expecting artistic things. People are expecting efforts. And if you're, I don't want to like downplay it really and say there was an effort done.
There's nothing like downplaying the fact that we're actually
we
talking
just need
about
a
your
bit of
work.
creativity.
Is we really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean the work stood
Exactly.
out in the first place. That's why we're talking about it on the show. I feel like there should have been more creativity because there are things that we've seen before. We've seen face painting before. Like that is just a whole, you know. And you know, with Ugandan culture, we are not really big on face painting. I mean, other cultures like the Zulu cultures, those guys used to do face painting. So it would make more sense if you had like if you were like in South Africa and did the face painting. It's still lacking. That's just Chibulam.
Okay. And then this other photo of former Miss, she's called Zakia.
Yeah.
She had the Ugandan map painted on her cheek. And of course, it is the face, and to me it's telling a story. She's looking forward, yeah? I love pictures that tell a story.
I feel like that
I
picture
could
is
easily
like poetry.
interpret. Exactly, I could easily
You know how
interpret.
you see poetry and you're like, there is a deeper meaning to
Exactly,
this.
I could easily interpret that kind of picture.
Yeah.
The map had some issues, but the story behind it is an 8 out of 10.
Okay. We've had an extensive discussion on the fashion evolution in Uganda, pre-colonial times, during colonial times, post-colonial times, and of course the now. It's been quite an informative and beautiful discussion, I must say. Don't forget that the show has been proudly sponsored by Geisha Naturals, specially made for African skin. Get yourself the Moringa oil soap, get yourself a black soap, get yourself the other variants of Geisha soap. It's an amazing soap. We shot here at Iconic today, Iconic on Senana building. It's a place where you will get the latest trends. They have amazing fits for both ladies and gentlemen. And of course today I was dressed by Iconic, from outfits to shoes, and hair and makeup today was by Sleek Hair and Makeup Artists. Find them on Instagram, on social media. I love how they put my look together, Iconic and Sleek Makeup. Also, follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Nicole Estella, Nicole_Estella 77.
And of course, I was dressed by Easy Apparel. Check them out on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And don't forget to follow me as well at Ramakizito.